Hold still! You lied to me! You lied to me! In the face, in my face. Put it in the peanut butter. In the face, in my face, in the face, in my face. In the face, in my face, in the face.
I thought you said this guy was a Christian. What is this?
Liberate tu te me.
Hey, Paeter Franson here from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Okay, I just got done watching the premiere for season 2 of The Flash. I love the Flash character. I've got a ton of Flash comics. I've followed him in the comics for years. New 52, things kind of... But before that, oh my gosh, you know, Flash it remains one of my favorite characters of all time. I did enjoy the first season, but I didn't keep up weekly. Certainly not appointment viewing. I just don't have time for even good shows or great shows. For me and my schedule, I only have time for awesome shows. So definitely not appointment viewing for me, and I wasn't keeping up all the time. Just would try to catch up before episodes expired, you know. So that gives you an idea of kind of like how I felt about the first season. For me, in fiction, I need characters that I can relate to for fiction to really work well. And for TV shows that don't have the budget to really give me a one-time awesome spectacle that's kind of like, ooh, cool, shiny, you know, that's even more important, to have stories and characters that I can emotionally relate to or invest in some way. It doesn't have to be this big, heavy stuff all the time, but I at least need to be able to relate to the motives of the characters. And that's what I've been struggling with for most of the first season of this show. In the last few episodes of season 1, I felt like, oh man, they're really starting to ramp up some of the things that I like. The things with Harrison Wells and the relationship between he and Barry, the relationship between Barry and his dad, the relationship between Barry and his pseudo-adoptive father, Joe West. Really neat stuff going on there. I felt like that they were getting Iris a little bit more right. She was a little less of just kind of like a blank trophy girl character that he was pining for. Do I have something in my teeth? I feel something in my teeth. So I felt like they were starting to move things in the right direction. And then, of course, with all the cool, crazy stuff that was going on in those last few episodes, they had me. I was like, oh, man. I mean, I think not quite appointment viewing, but like I watched it the day after it broadcast the season finale. So when I saw like him going up in... Oh, by the way, spoilers for the first episode of season 2. So just turn this off if you don't want spoilers for this episode. So when he's like going up into the cyclone at the end of last season, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I cannot wait to see what they do with this. And then you've got like, what's his dude, detective, love interest, what's his name? I can't remember. Triangle blonde guy, love triangle guy, detective. He gets killed, and then there's all kinds of like logical inconsistencies they're going to have to work out with like the Zoom not, killing Barry's mom. How would that all happen? What happens when the timeline collapses? It's like, there's so much craziness going on here. I cannot wait to see where this thing goes. Then we start the first episode of season 2, and they don't resolve any of that. What? We have to wait like 5-10 minutes into the episode before they even have a flashback. They just kind of start out saying, well, it's 6 months later, and yeah, things didn't work out. Flash, he's feeling, the city's like, oh, we love you, Flash. And I feel like the Flash mania of Central City is like, it's happening too fast. I think we got to build to that. It's a little bit unrealistic that even, that a year after him doing all these great things, I don't know, maybe it's just it's the certain kind of genre and feeling of the kind of setting. It's definitely not, it's never been a psychologically realistic show, but it still seems like the city is moving a little too fast and getting all pro Flash and giving him the key to the city and all this kind of stuff, So anyway, Barry's still not feeling good because in the flashback where they reveal that like Ronnie blended with Firestorm to go and help the cyclone situation, and then he disappeared. But I think we've seen Ronnie in promos for the spin-off show that's going to be starting in the spring. So I mean, I think that kind of sucks the dramatic tension out of his quote-unquote death. Lots of problems with this premiere that, I mean, not only did they kind of suck the wind out of the potential momentum that was left with that season finale, but it just goes back to some of the worst qualities of this show, which I'm like, I'm really trying to like this show, and I was actually succeeding in liking it at the end of last season. But now we're back to dialogue that makes me feel like a freaking genius, the way they spoon-feed me everything, like when Barry leaves and he leaves without his comms, and Barry says he left behind his comms. I know exactly what the significance of that is. I know that, okay, he's disconnected, he's not going to be able to get help from you, and you guys care about him. I get that. But then he has to follow up with, we won't be able to talk to him. Okay, yeah, I understood that, so yeah, he's kind of on his own, and like, you're not gonna be able to help him. And then after that, he says, he's all alone out there. And there are a ton of just little bitty instances of that kind of spoon fitting peppered throughout this episode. Then we've got some continuity resets that are really frustrating, like Caitlin, okay? Caitlin, she thought she lost Ronnie, her fiance. That was the whole setup for her character for season 1, is she's sad because she lost her fiance in the accident that created the Flash and so many other metahumans. And then, during season 1, of course, they're reunited. They actually get married in the last episode, and now he has disappeared again, and she believes he's dead, okay? And now we've gone 6 months later. Again, I think the first time was maybe a year. Now maybe it's 6 months. I don't know. But, she seems maybe a little bit down, but she still seems way too happy and adjusted to her fiance/husband dying twice, okay? I mean, at this point, I would be so psychologically insecure that, like, I mean, that would mess you up so bad to have someone that you think is dead, that you love that close, that dearly, then you think they're dead, you're dealing with that for a year, then they come back from the dead, and then they die again. How can you be a normal, adjusted human being of any kind? She needs to be in psychiatric care. This doesn't make any sense. But now you already see that there's just a little bit of sexual tension between her, and a romantic tension probably is a better word, between her and Barry. And so once again, I think she's going to be the love triangle interruption between, Barry and Iris, which I don't really care about that relationship anyway, because Iris still is barely more than like a trophy. I don't know who she is, what she cares about, what makes her tick. They've not explored that hardly at all. And also, I think that she's just making some actor choices that are just not really, they just don't make a lot of sense to me. She's just kind of doing a little bit of model posing there. Anyway, so this is just like another indication that once again we're going to get a CW show that doesn't have any maturing relationships, only relationships that have conflict because of shallow, juvenile reasons. Like, do I like this person or do I like this person? It's so freaking high school, and these guys, I know they all look very young, but they are out of high school. So can we please move beyond that, or even like 20-something? I guess they are 20-somethings, but geez Louise. Please, can we have relationships that are just a little bit more advanced than these? A little bit more complex, a little bit less predictable in their conflict and conflict resolution. Now, I do think that adding Victor Garber, who plays Professor Stein, to the main crew can only improve the show. Love him from Alias, and I don't think he's able to flex those acting muscles near as much in this show, but having him in the main cast, and hopefully in every episode from here on out until we've resolved the Ronnie situation at least, is only going to improve the show. Good move. Good job, guys. I also thought it was good to advance the dad in prison story, okay? So dad is now out of prison, and I think that's great because that can't be the motive for the entire series, I think that comics, they move continuity forward as seasons and years progress, and I think that this show should do that too. So now there's the potential for like dad/Joe stories that they can tell. Where like, because he was raised by Joe, but his dad's his dad, So it's like, what kind of like roles can they each play in his life, and what kind of conflict might there be? I mean, there's potential for actually relatable family drama in this series that like all kinds of people could relate to as you try to, as you sort through, as people play favorites in their families and get along with some people, and there's just like tension of, who is the preferred family member or whatever, there's just kind of like some great relatable tension there that they could do, but they've thrown that all away. What? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, Barry's dad is telling him, I can't stay here. Basically, I love you so much, I need to go away so you can be the best hero that you can be. What? That doesn't make any sense to me. What father would do that? I suppose it's possible that a father would do that, but is there any father that can relate to that? I mean, that's so unrelatable. That's, again, another example of these motivations and these characters that don't make any sense to me. And then he says, Barry, I need you to tell me that it's okay for me to do this. And Barry just kind of winces and then nods and cries a little bit and hugs him. I'm like, How is that okay, Barry? This is the thing that both of you guys have been wanting for the last 2 decades. You have wanted to be together. You've wanted to rebuild some semblance of a normal family. This is the thing that has been driving you, is to get your dad free from prison so that you can be together. And now what? What? Okay. All right. All right. So what else is on my list here? Oh yeah, don't kill him. Don't kill him. I guess if they don't know what to do and how to handle this relationship right now, it's better to get rid of him. But I'd rather they got better writers who would know how to do something more interesting and relatable with him. I guess he's gonna go bye-bye for now and then just come back when we need him, you know. What the crap. Anyway, the Cisco thing where he's developing powers, I think that's a mistake. I think that's where you kind of see power creep in these kinds of shows where, like, everybody starts to develop superpowers. Pretty soon there are no normal people left. Now, minor spoilers if you're not aware of this from the comic books, but Caitlin Snow will likely be the Killer Frost, which is a superhero villain, a nemesis of Firestorm, at some point in the future, because that's who Caitlin Snow is as a character in the comics. And she's perfectly positioned for that, you know, in terms of her relationship with Ronnie and Firestorm, you know. So pretty soon, before we know it, the only peer in Barry's life that's going to be normal is Iris. And there is nothing going on in Iris. She is not a fully formed character. And so I think to only have her left that's like the normal person in his life is a horrible mistake. Joe's a normal person, except for when he has his happy moment laughs. You know, Joe laughs too easily to create family moments or friend moments or something. It'd be like, you know, Cisco will say something that's really not that funny, and Joe will go, you silly Cisco. Oh, yeah. Good times. Good times. And he did that again with Barry at some point. You know, he just has these moments where he's laughing. I'm like, dude, it does not take much to get you laughing and having a happy, touching little moment here. So it feels very forced. He also reacts with surprise during the flashback when young Barry finally hugs him. He's at the table trying to encourage young Barry. He's like, you know, it's okay to feel. Your parents would be okay. You know, you don't have to stay strong, you know. It's okay to be sad. And then Barry finally breaks down in the same scene, turns around and hugs him. This is like 3 seconds later. And Joe is like, hey, it's okay. I got you. I got you. I'm like, what is that look in your face? The look in your face says, what's all this? What's all this, little guy? I didn't see this coming. What's all this? What's all this about? I'm totally mystified by your tears and your hugging of me, even though for the last minute I've been telling you it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to process your emotions, but now I'm like, what is all this? I don't get it. It's just another little example all throughout this episode of characters doing things that don't make sense to me in terms of like their emotional motivation. Like, why are you doing this? Doesn't make any sense. Another example would be Barry not wanting to watch the Wells video. Why? Why would he not want to watch the video that the Reverse Flash left behind for him as part of his last will and testament? That's just bizarre, okay? As far as they understand, Reverse Flash is dead at this point, and I didn't understand. I was like, I knew as soon as the guy gave him the thing, this is his last will and testament, you're supposed to watch it, I haven't seen it, it's just for your eyes only, I'm going to leave now. I knew he was not going to watch it in that scene. Why? Because it made sense for him as a character? I was like, no, they're going to try to build suspense and keep this a secret for a little while. There's no way he's watching it right now because the pace of this show will not allow for it. Not because the character motivations won't allow for it, although we do learn later on, Caitlin says, you know, why haven't you watched it? And he says, I'm afraid to. What are you afraid of? I don't get it. I suppose I could conjure up something, try to creatively think up something that could be making you afraid to watch this video from a dead guy who was evil and destroyed your life, but who is dead now and can't hurt you anymore. I don't know. I don't get that at all. I don't get that, you know? Anyway, what else we got here? Okay, so we got the, oh yeah, everybody, this is another thing. Everybody's talking about Barry's secret in public. Okay, over the dead body, Joe is like, talking about Barry and then said, talking about the Flash and him being the Flash, And then in the middle of the police department, there are also these other, the people that are on his crew, like Joe and Caitlin, and I think it was Cisco, though. I think those were the three that were in the scene. And they're talking about, Barry being the Flash. And yeah, they're kind of using muttered voices, but really, shouldn't you have just a little bit more security, and... and barriers between you and the rest of the world when you're talking about the Flash's secret identity? I mean, he does wear a complete body mask, so weird. Anyway, the Flash bat signal, a little too on the nose. Didn't do it for me, but I mean, I'm not the guy to talk to about what's funny and what's not. I have a very specific sense of humor that is very rarely scratched. Jay Garrick, okay, the fan service at the end was cool, but Joe did say, you take one more step, it'll be your last. And then what does he do? He takes one more step into the light and Joe does not fire, I think most police officers, when they warn you that they're about to shoot, I don't know, I'm not a cop, but I kind of think he should have shot. And it's Jay Garrick anyway, so it's not like he would have been hurt. So the Jay Garrick fan service was cool, but then he stepped forward, which was really weird after the Joe's line, and then he spoke very woodenly. I'm Jay Garrick. Your world is in danger. It was actually wooden. It wasn't even like commandingly heroic. It was just kind of wooden. So I think if you're a fan of The Flash, that was a cool ending, like, oh my gosh, it's Jay Garrick, blah, 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 blah. So there was that little part of me in the back of my mind that was like, oh, this is cool, it's Jay Garrick. But I mean, like, just as like a moment in this episode, it's like, what is this? How is this a climax? How are we ending on a high note with this? It's really weird. Atom Smasher was CG instead of being enlarged. I think that they should have used enlarging effects instead of using CG. And you might say, oh, that would have looked fake. Well, this looked fake. At least to me, I'm cursed with eyes that just kind of like can't help but see visual effects like this. But I would rather it look fake and have a real actor that is obviously, removed from the scene via blue screen or something like that, than have it look fake and be a not real actor. So that was kind of a bummer. Also, just as a minor point, Atom Smasher, when I was last reading JSA, a few years back, he was a good guy. There are so many Flash villains. Why waste this hero when he could potentially be part of, the spin-off series that's coming in the spring? I don't know. That was weird. And now he's dead, so he can't even reform. I guess they can always come back to life in shows like this. But so anyway, this is definitely. I mean, like, I'm not going to be keeping up with this show. I will binge watch it now and then on my laptop while I'm playing a video game. It will not get my full attention until they start doing episodes that are more like where they ended the last season. Okay, I got to pick up my son, so I got to go. But and it's definitely not appointment viewing. I mean, it's barely going to be like catch up on Hulu or the CW website because they still have commercial breaks in it. So I'm definitely going to want to be dinking around doing something else while I watch this. But how could they get me to do appointment viewing? Well, they'd have to be better than Breaking Bad for that, because even Breaking Bad was not appointment viewing for me. And The Walking Dead isn't even appointment viewing for me. So the bar's way too high for that. But I mean, how could they get me to kind of like watch it the day after it comes out every single week? Return to serialized storytelling that changes the continuity, changes the status quo as we go forward. Every few episodes, you don't have to do it every episode, but every 3 episodes or so, you should significantly change the status quo, move things forward, have more relatable character motivations. And do not rush into fan service. I have the feeling that they're going to really just emphasize fan service and a bunch of winks and nods to the DC universe over having a story that is good in and of itself. And we've seen how horribly wrong that can go with a show like Gotham, at least in my opinion. But there you go. So here's hoping it gets better. Love The Flash. Would love to love this show. I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments below. And then I hope you go to ChristianGeekCentral.com. Blah, blah. I don't have my sign. So that's it. Bye.
ChristianGeekCentral.com